Hello, welcome, welcome. My name is Ileana, and I'm a librarian at the San Francisco Public Library. I am so happy you are here with us for the first of two author events in our series, The Golden Door Meets the Golden Gate, in partnership with New York Public Library and San Francisco Unified School District Libraries. This program is live streaming from San Francisco, California, and I'm going to share land acknowledgement to raise awareness and offer gratitude. The area now known as San Francisco is the unceded ancestral homeland of the Ramaytush Ohlone peoples of the San Francisco Peninsula. As the original peoples of this land, the Ramaytush Ohlone have never ceded, lost, nor forgotten their responsibilities as the caretakers of this place. We recognize that we benefit from living, working, and learning on their traditional homeland. As uninvited guests, we affirm their sovereign rights as First Peoples and wish to pay our respects to the ancestors, elders, and relatives of the Ramaytush community. I encourage you to learn about the land where you reside or the land that you visit. There will be resources in the chat, and you can always visit your local library. We are very thankful for our partnership with the Chatham Square and Seward Park Libraries of the New York Public Library, the San Francisco Unified School District Libraries, and San Francisco Public Library to bring this special series to students, educators, and our communities. Student book groups from SF's Marina, Hoover, and Roosevelt middle schools, along with students from New York's PS 184 and PS 126 have been discussing Ed Lin's book as part of the series, The Golden Door Meets the Golden Gate. In this series, students and educators have connected with their bicoastal peers and are participating in virtual author talks based in SF Chinatown and New York's Chinatown. In preparation for the author visit, educators guide discussion and youth consider themes and questions to pose. Be sure to save the date for the April author interview with Malinda Lo, author of Last Night at the Telegraph Club, set in 1954 SF Chinatown, on YouTube. Here is a map of the San Francisco with our schools, Marina, Roosevelt, and Hoover marked. And here is a map of New York City with our schools PS 184 and PS 126 marked. Now about Ed Lin. Ed Lin is a native New Yorker of Taiwanese and Chinese descent and the first author to win 3 Asian American Literary Awards. His books include Waylaid and a mystery trilogy set in New York's Chinatown in the 70s, This Is a Bust, Snakes Can't Run, and One Red Bastard. Ghost Month, published by Soho Crime, is a Taipei-based mystery, and Incensed and 99 Ways to Die continue that series. David Tung Can't Have a Girlfriend Until He Gets Into an Ivy League College, published by Kaya Press, is his first YA novel. Lin lives in Brooklyn with his wife, actress Cindy Chung, and son. Our friends in New York, our New York librarians, created this very cool map with place markers to set the scene for us. Here we have our setting, Shark Beach, New Jersey, and Chinatown, New York. And here we have places of interest in the novel, along with our New York schools represented, and of course the libraries. So without further ado, please welcome Ed Lin.
Hey guys, how you doing? Hope you're all doing great. It's funny, I was just eating opposite of Chinatown Fair. I just saw that picture, the arcade in Chinatown. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to read for about 10 minutes from the novel, from a part where David is pushed to ask his mother for the money to rent a tux for the school dance. Okay, here we go. My heart was pounding in fear when my mother picked me up as usual at the bus stop. I was full on terrified to lay out all my plans in full, which I needed to do to even have a shot at her giving me the tux money. How was school? She asked. Fine, I said. I saw her mouth twitch. She was suspicious when she didn't hear grades. No tests or quizzes? No, nothing today. What about Harmony Health? Still nothing. I couldn't muster the courage to bring up the dance. Once we got to the restaurant, I went into work mode. Every time I thought I was going to get a break for a few minutes, another task presented itself. Soon the night was almost over. We were cleaning up. It was now or never. I'd already decided there was no way I was going to tell my mother about the dance once we got home. She'd said numerous times that when she gets home, she just wants to sleep. Plus, here at the restaurant, there was always the chance I could rally up some backup support from Auntie Zong or my dad. At the very least, my mother would think twice before really lashing into me if it came to that. My newly found level of social acceptance and the potential for a real life girlfriend was riding on being able to go to the dance. I could be as cool at Shark Beach High as I was at the Chinese school in Chinatown. But in order for that to happen, I needed to go to Nordstrom this week. There was no way to put it off any longer. Mom, I said hoarsely. She was stapling receipts near the cash register. Yes? Can you help me rent a tuxedo? Tuxedo? What for? I want to go to a school dance. She put down the stapler and curled her hands into fists. You want to go to a dance? My shoulders involuntarily shrugged out of fear. A girl asked me to go, and I said yes. A girl, said my mother, like a TV detective announcing she'd found the murder weapon. I heard my father moving somewhere behind me, possibly taking shelter. Who's this girl? Christina Tao. My mother flared her nostrils. Is she your secret girlfriend, David? No, I said. I don't have a girlfriend, much less a secret girlfriend. Tao, she said venomously. It sounds like a Cantonese name. My mother sometimes expressed distaste for Cantonese people for no explicable reason. How many times have I told you? You're not allowed to have a girlfriend until college, and you'd better get into an Ivy League school. It was the end of yet another day, a long day of work, but my mother didn't seem tired at all. She was as mad as I've ever seen her. I know. I looked around for some silent show of support. Auntie Zong's English wasn't great, but she could probably understand what was happening. Yet she was diligently wiping down a tabletop, her head bent. My father suddenly found that something in the kitchen required him. After a brief pause, my mother was on me again. You're not even number one, are you? She pointed at my nose. All the way down to number 8. You spent too much time thinking about girls. That was a complete lie. It angered me into making a fatal mistake, talking back to my mother while she was still fired up. I spent too much time working at this restaurant, I protested. You know how long I work here? How long your father works here? You want to run around with girls while we're spending the day and night here making money so we can live? Oh no, don't let her start talking about money when she's this angry. Okay, look, I said, attempting to calm her down. It's just one dance. It's not a big deal. Christina's parents are Chinese too, and they think it's okay. But there was no calm eye to this storm. They're not your parents, and that's not my child. Why can't you understand? No, you don't understand. A lot of kids are going. Not you, David, my mother thundered. You tell this girl you don't want a girlfriend and you don't want to talk to her anymore. I already told her I would go, I said. Tell her you can't. You're in school, and school is for learning, not for girls. She closed her lips and wiped her front teeth with her tongue, considering something. Give me your phone, David. What? Give me your phone. I don't want you talking and sexting with this girl. I'm not sexting with her, Mom. Who knows what you're doing? I handed over my phone, and half a second later, it was zipped up in her purse. Nothing ever escaped from there, not even light. Thank you. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Ed, for reading that. Yes, we have so many questions. And we have one that came in really, really quickly. So I'd love to go to that one. What inspired you to write this book?
Oh, well, my agent had been on my case for years to write a YA book, a young adult book. And he's like, you've got an ear for dialogue, ear for characters. I think you'd be really good at it. Yeah, I hadn't really thought about it. And so I actually read a couple of YA books that he had suggested, and I just kind of I saw an opportunity there because I didn't really see anything that felt like something that I had lived with, and so I felt like I kind of had to go into that space, that specific New Jersey kind of space where kind of just like when you're a kid and you're getting older, you're on the verge of adulthood, and you kind of just see what you could be, and you're still kind of close to it and yet so far away. It's like living in Jersey. You're so close to the city and yet you're so far away from all the cultural happenings there and everything. And so I wanted to capture that feeling of the Jerseyness of young adulthood or early adulthood.
And you that's fantastic, I think. And I love the characters. I love the place as character, like the setting as character. I feel like that really came through very, very well. I'm not familiar with New York, and I felt like I didn't necessarily need to be. We did get some questions before from our youth. And one of them was like, was this about your life? Is this autobiographical? And then there's a kind of a follow-up continuing with that thread. So yeah.
It is somewhat autobiographical. David it's much nicer and much smarter than I ever was. But my mother had been on my case to get into an Ivy League school and everything. And I tried to capture, the terror of like not, achieving that and everything. And really in high school, we moved the summer before my senior year. We moved to Pennsylvania, but because we moved to Pennsylvania, UPenn has this program where I don't know if it still counts or not, but if you are a Pennsylvania resident, you can apply to the early admission program. But if you're admitted, you don't have to go. Usually, you apply early decision, you're obligated to go. But I applied, I got in, so I knew by like the end of November that I had gotten into an Ivy League school, and I was just so relieved. I was so relieved. I could draw a line under that, because like if I hadn't, I would probably still be hearing about it now. I mean, and in the end, it really doesn't mean, very much at all, but at least I had achieved that.
You had just said like David was nice. It's semi-autobiographical, and that David was nice. And we have some questions here like, yeah, what are your opinions on him? Would you be his friend? And they kind of go between like he's somewhat likable, and then some are like, what's his deal? So do you think that David will have the same expectations for his children someday? Is David going to have children? Like it becomes like this, ongoing kind of quest.
I know. Hey, he's got to take it one step at a time. He still has to achieve is growing into himself,
Yeah.
It remains to be seen. But that happens off the page.
Yeah.
But he is able to take a stand for himself by the end of the book. When I conceived of this character, I came up with the name David Tongue because he has a divided tongue. He's kind of equivocating things, but he's finally able to stand up and be his own person.
Thank you for answering that. That was also a question, is how did you come up with the names of your characters?
Well, David, that way. Other people are different, different people that I've encountered. When I was in Jersey, it wasn't a really there. It was not a very high population of Asians. Right now, though, in northern Jersey, there are towns where it's like 70, 80% Asian, and like the schools, like similar amounts. And I went to Columbia for college, and when I got into Columbia, I was like, cool, I'm going to be hanging out with like a bunch of Asians, and we're going to like do all the social justice stuff. It'll be really awesome. But like when I got there, it was like, I was such a hick. I was a guy in like plaid and like jeans, and they were so cool. They all had like really cool clothes. Some of them had cars. They all had like fake IDs. They were going to clubs like early and stuff. And like I was like totally the outsider in terms of that. And so I just pulled that college experience into high school, and kind of used that as a basis for what I imagine is happening now.
That's fascinating. Another question that kind of pops up around David is, why is he so different in Chinese school?
Because I feel like when he comes into that Chinese school in Chinatown, he's an outsider there, but that's actually kind of an edge. And though there are like whispers like, oh, he comes from a really rich place in Jersey, he must be like, come from this awesome family and everything. And so he's, that's a step up for him, as opposed to being in Shark Beach, where he's like, kind of thrown into the manual labor kind of thing, as opposed to like, having his own law firm or hedge fund that the other kids have. So just, whatever rumors are in the air about you actually benefit him in Chinatown and hurt him in Shark Beach.
I really appreciated from the kind of the jump right from the beginning. I felt like you're kind of hooked with these different groups, and where he's trying to like find his sense of place at Shark Beach, and then like how that's kind of delineated very, very profoundly, I thought. So there were some questions about process for you, like how long did it take you to write the book? Like how was that for you? And what's your process around? Was it different from writing your adult novels?
Let's see. Oh, it's very different because the adult mystery novels. Well, I really appreciate humor, and that's something that I have in the mystery books. And I feel like it's more of like a fun kind of thing. It's like entertainment kind of reading. But, when I'm writing with, my younger self in mind, and young Asian Americans, I wanted to be, even though it's fiction, I wanted to be as truthful as possible. I wanted to speak to their situation that I imagined that they're in, and to let them know that they're not alone if they're kind of in this sort of thing, that there is a way through. Part of the struggle is something that all of us have struggled with, and so you're not alone in this. And to have a bit of an outside kind of thing, and maybe see a lighter side if possible. Let's see. It's March now, so we're coming near the end of an academic year. Sure, people are a little pressed. I've seen the documentary Try Harder about the kids in Lowell, and I'm like, wow, it's that's really game on right there. So to everybody in that situation, I'm like, hang in there and believe in yourself.
Did you want to be an author growing up?
I've wanted to write ever since I knew how to write. I don't know how to describe it. Our elementary school in Jersey had a literary magazine called Scribbles, and I remember writing poetry for it. You know, when my wife wants to like really take me down a few notches, she'll quote some of the poetry that I had in like first or second grade. But that's right off the bat, first, second grade, I knew I wanted to write.
And when you write, what is that like? Do you need to be in like a quiet place? Do you listen to music? Do you eat certain kinds of foods or have a drink that you go to?
Well, you know, early on when I was working on what became my first novel, everybody, you know, there's a stereotype that your first published novel is probably the second or third one that you actually wrote. And for me, that's totally true. I'd written 2 books beforehand that are spinning in some floppy disk right now. But at first, I thought I would have to write at a certain time at night. I'd have like a tea right here and like a Coke with ice right here. But then I got a little afraid. I thought that I would, if I didn't have these certain things, I wouldn't be able to write. And so like, just in the sense that you have to destroy your darlings when you're editing. When you're editing, there can be no sacred cows. You have to like strip out everything that doesn't make sense or whatever. And so I destroyed any kind of potential routine thing that I had. So now I can write almost anywhere. I've even written on Greyhound buses and Amtrak trains, or in the conference room like I am now. You know, we have a 9-year-old kid, so there's no, I don't know what a quiet space really is anymore. Because even when he's asleep, I feel like my thoughts are like interrupted by things that I need to do. But, you know, writing is a discipline. You know, it can be fun. You should have fun with it. And it is a earned joy, I will say.
Mm-hmm. Totally. If there are any other questions, feel free to pop them in the chat. We'll continue with these questions. I love this Q&A session just going in. We have some really fun questions too, like, do you laugh at memes?
Do I laugh at memes if they're funny?
Yeah. Would David laugh at memes?
David might glance at it and register that it's funny and then think, MCATs.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And then we have a couple more questions around like food. So why does food come up so much in your novel?
Oh, well, he works at a restaurant. You know, when I was growing up, my family's business was a hotel, and that's a like 24-hour kind of business. The restaurant game is a little different. You know, you got to start out early in the morning. And if you're a restaurant kid or restaurant kids out there, you know, the first thing right off the bat, you got to prepare all the vegetables. So you'll be there at like 7 in the morning, cutting vegetables, you know, stripping out stems and getting them ready and everything. And it's not like David is like really enamored with his food or anything, but he knows how good it is by, you know, eating the food that they serve at the Chinatown school and like just, you know, thinking, it's terrible food right here.
Yeah, it's just ever present in his life, right? Mm-hmm. So that's just part of the character. Totally. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and I appreciate that you bring in the piece around like his parents have a restaurant, and he kind of also delineates you know, who in his school comes from money and who comes from like, you know, businesses. So I really appreciate that, because I think sometimes that's an outsider looking in can be that can be hard to grasp for some folks.
Yes, yeah, it's not a uniform demographic at all. You know, I mean, surely there are a lot of really prosperous Asian Americans, but Asian Americans, you know, very high percentage of kids living in poverty. And you can take a look at something like Stuyvesant High School in New York City. It's one of the 3 special schools that you have to test into and have like super high grade scores. And it's like 85% Asian. But most of these kids are on assisted or free lunches too. So there's many different swirls and many different flavors of Asians, even within the diaspora known as Chinese. And I kind of wanted to complicate it, as I did in this novel. I wanted to set it in a predominantly Chinese diasporic student body, to show the issues that we even have within ourselves, apart from like the white racism that the one or two Asian American students might have in other school systems. I just wanted to talk about us and like our problems and issues with each other. And there's plenty, like even within a single family, as I'm sure a lot of these readers know.
Mm-hmm. So what message would you want the readers to take away from the book? Is there a message, or is there a couple of them?
I guess there are a couple of them. One of them really to, if you're feeling doubtful about yourself, to believe in yourself more, really hear and understand yourself. I know, for a lot of kids, high school is a really fearful kind of time. But it's okay to feel the fear. Just, sit with it, understand why you feel afraid, but don't let it stop you from doing things. I mean, if you want to be on the dance team and you're afraid of like looking foolish in front of people, keep the fear, but go ahead and still, try out for the team. You really have to push yourself in order to grow. When you're afraid of something, you are growing, and pretty soon when you get older, you'll find the fear kind of falling away just because something's new. So I'm just saying, like, understand yourself completely.
What part of the book did you have the hardest time writing?
Let's see. I would say none of it was really easy. I was just kind of like looking back at my own childhood and being like, oh, writing a lot of it was painful. So, as I said, I don't let the pain or fear stop me. I just kept going. I feel like one of the hardest things to get right maybe was, just near the end of the book, where David has the realization that as hard a time as he's felt, that he's been given in Shark Beach, that a lot of these kids are, they're in their own place of pain, and that he's able to see that. And he's also able to see that, not everybody hated him. And just to have that groundswell of support when he wins the internship at Harmony Health, and people there actually to celebrate him, and he's just really shocked that there are these people there.
We have another couple, like the questions are just pouring in, so thank you for kind of going to rapid fire here. But we have a couple of questions about the characters and the story. Were any of the fictional characters based off of real people in your life?
A bit. I took I took little parts of like people who give me hard times, and I would see that they were coming from a place of pain. As an adult, I can see that they were coming from a place of pain, and I tried to keep them empathetic as well. Even though they're giving David a hard time, to be more than one-dimensional kind of characters. But there's nobody who's like a direct lift of someone who's someone that I knew or anything. No one's 100% real, but I hope the characters feel real.
Oh, they definitely do. They definitely feel real. Like this next character. In the book, the science teacher would give pop quizzes when he had laundry day, and he would wear mismatched socks. So what gave you the idea to do that? And do you think it would work every time?
Well, I had this biology teacher who was like, I don't know. There was something a bit pathological about him. Like he was on a quest to, punish kids. I remember one time he gave a quiz and then he left the room and he went outside of the school and he looked in through the window and he wrote down the names of everyone he thought was cheating and gave them all zeros. And that's one way to teach, teaching equals punishment kind of thing. And he didn't wear mismatched socks, but he wore funny socks. I don't know. My idea of having mismatched socks is from me dealing with laundry in the pandemic because I haven't been going out very much at all. So socks are like one of my least washed items, and it's even weird because even though I don't wear them that often, I still don't get the equal number out in the dryer. I don't know where they went because I don't wear them too often.
Who knows where they go? I don't know either. I don't. If anybody knows, please let us know. Great. And then we have a question about, and I'd like to add a piece to this one. The question is, how many grammar mistakes did you make on the novel? And I'd love to add a question about like how many times did it go through an editor, and how long does that take? Because I feel like sometimes people may not understand or may not know the process of like submitting, and it takes some time, and then you get some feedback, and it becomes, a journey. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Okay.
Or was it just perfect from the beginning?
I made about 50 million grammatical mistakes. And this book had a pretty long gestation and really two editors. First editor was Neela Banerjee, the managing editor of Kaya. At first, she was going to edit this book, but she ended up going on maternity leave. And so Sun Young Lee, who had edited my first two books, Waylaid and This Is a Bus, came in and edited as well. And see, it's a great illustration for David Tung. Even though we're both Asian American, we had very different experiences growing up. Sun Young's Korean American, and like her parents were like academics. And I'm like Chinese, Taiwanese American, and we ran a hotel. So early on in the editing, she was like, okay, so David goes to school and he's practically working full-time at the restaurant, and his parents still expect him to get into an Ivy League school and do well in school. I kind of find that hard to believe. And I'm like, a lot of Asian American kids are working at their family's business and doing their best academically, like studying till like midnight and past that. But like she hadn't known that, and like that wasn't part of our intersected experience. So we had a very thorough edit. The editing time for this thing was probably about a year of like rewrites and stuff from starting before the pandemic, like 2019 to like early 2020.
And what advice would you have for young writers? And I mean, I'm throughout this whole conversation with you, I feel like I'm hearing advice around like just go for it and just be who you are. And if it's like you said, if it's dance, go for dance. If it's not dance, don't do that, but for young writers, and I love that you were interested in writing as a child. What kind of advice would you give a young writer?
Wow, I would say everybody says read widely, but apart from going to your libraries and giving your librarians a lot of love because they are awesome. You should also live widely. You should travel as much as you can. Get involved with things as much as you can. If you don't know much about a certain area, let's say improv theater. Hey, give improv theater a shot. I actually took a few improv classes, and the amazing thing is it gives you the power to stop time. Because like you ever been in a situation where you're like, oh, I wish I said this, oh, I wish I did that. If you take improv classes, you can learn to be in the moment and like, correct things. It's really cool. So do that. Try to learn from everybody you talk to. Uh, Stay open with people. Try to have a dialogue with your parents. You're not going to agree about everything. There may be a lot of things you disagree with. And these lived experiences will feed your writing. And a lot of people also say you should be writing every day, but I don't think that's true. If you try to force yourself to write, write 300, 500 words every day, it can make your writing kind of rote. I feel like you should only write when you are, pushed to write, when you feel that you must write. I mean, there were times when, early on where I would be trying to go to sleep and like I just couldn't sleep because I had to write, and I would just get up and write until like 5 a.m, and then like 3 hours later get up and go to work. So, well, try to get a job where you can be like half awake and get your way through it as well. But everyone who wants to write, get out there and do it. We need you.
Yeah, tell your story, right? I love that this is semi-autobiographical, what it is. But it's definitely that you're sharing the story, that you're sharing that with you and your editor. I thought that was a fantastic piece, that even though you're both Asian American, two totally separate lived experiences, right? We do have some questions around, are your parents proud of you?
Oh, that's an interesting question. Well, after reading my third book, my mother said, finally, this is a book that doesn't shame the family. So, did it, Ma? Well, I had always been very vocal about wanting to write, and my mother has been very vocal about me being a doctor. So, you know what they say about Asian Americans in college is that they always have like two majors, or a major and a minor, and one is for them and one is for their parents. And it's definitely true for me. The engineering degree that I ended up getting is definitely for my parents. And I was also working on a literature writing degree, the special program that I had designed. And I just came one class short of getting it, one class short of getting that bachelor's. Yeah, so.
Did your mom let you get a girlfriend?
She did not let me get one. Let's say. She's very against it, in the same way that this David's fictional mother was, because it's a distraction,
Yeah. And does David get into an Ivy League college?
Ooh, good question. I don't know.
Will there be a sequel?
Also unknown. I mean, but I don't know. If people really want to see a sequel, instead of using their imaginations and imagining what could happen to them, if enough people are want a sequel, then I will write one.
We have a few minutes left, and I kind of went in on our Q&A, but another piece, and I had shared this with you just before we started, was we asked our San Francisco students what kind of myths there are about New York. So I wanted to offer a little bit of time here to kind of go through a couple of them. We also see in the chat somebody wants a sequel, so we'll see how many more of those come. But I wanted to share some of those, and if you would like to debunk the myth, or if one of our New York students or classrooms is interested in debunking the myth, We'll do that for a couple of minutes, and then we'll talk about what's next. How's that sound?
Sure.
Cool. So we have one here. I think a huge stereotype we all believe is that everywhere in the city looks like downtown New York. When this person went, they realized very predictably that you all have residential neighborhoods too. I guess they debunked their own myth. So there's that. I kind of do want to get into this other one. It's a twofold. The city that never sleeps. Is it the city that never sleeps?
It actually is, because at this crazy job I was working at, I was working at this newswire, and it was a 24-hour newswire. And for a couple of months, I was working either 5 to midnight or midnight to 7 a.m. And I remember one time I took this cab into work, and the guy didn't have change. So he went to this coffee cart, and this is like midnight, and to get change. So it's an interaction between like 3 people at like the middle of the dead night. It was just, there was nothing else open. So just when you think nobody's there, there's always somebody there, and it's always active. It's definitely never sleeps.
We have an affirmation of it's the city that never sleeps from one of our New York students. And then we have one more question about David's parents. What do you have to, well, not about David's parents, but I'll read the question. What do you have to say to parents that are like David's?
I'd say that the American dream is not having your child be a doctor and having you brag to your friends that your offspring has become a doctor. The American dream is that you are free to pursue what you want, and that ultimately you want your children to be happy no matter what they do. So when they say they want to do something, please support them, no matter how crazy it sounds. If they want to do arts, you should let them. If they want to become a doctor, you should let them explore that as well. But you should be a resource. You should be a foundation for them to explore their dreams in ways that you were not able to.
Hear, hear. Thank you. Great message. Any words of farewell? Thank you so much, Ed. We're almost at our time, so I wanted to give you an opportunity to share kind of any final thoughts or things that you'd like to
well,
leave.
When I was in college, I was part of a group of Asian Americans trying to bring Asian American studies to the campus because there was no program. And every week at our meetings, Yuri Kochiyama and her husband Bill would come, like without fail. Every Sunday night they would come out and they would give us moral support. They would tell us stories of the struggle that they had faced. It was like shortly after Japanese American internment was given redress. They would bring their friends, some who had written books about being interned as Japanese Americans. And it was so amazing. And it was like almost another class that I was taking. And I just never, ever forgot that. And so when there are like young Asian Americans that I can speak to, that I give moral support, or even just like be here to make you laugh, I will always do it. I'm always here for you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Ed. This was wonderful. I feel like if you hadn't had fans just from your book, you definitely will have them from this engaging conversation. So thank you so much.
Oh, no, thank you for thinking of me and everything,
Yeah.
getting this program along and everything.
And so that was incredible, everybody. Thanks again to Ed Lin. Thanks to our partners at the New York Public Library, the Chatham Square and the Seward Park libraries, and our San Francisco Unified School District libraries, as well as all of our youth here participating. Thanks to all our students and teachers. And if you love today's program, you can watch it again on our YouTube channel. We'll have the link available. And that's all for today. So take good good care of yourselves. Stay safe. There's tons of love for you, Ed, here in the chat. So thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.
Okay, we'll see ya.